today?
We need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death. What if...
Every time I survived the war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 action thriller Civil War. The film is written and directed by Alex Garland, and the film stars Kirsten Dunst, Wagner Moura, Kaylee Spaney and Nick Offerman. Now the film is set in a fictional US. It is going through a particularly brutal civil war that has been going on for some time now. And the film follows a group of journalists, Kirsten Dunst, Wagner Moura, Kaylee Spaney, and we also have Stephen McKinney Henderson. And they're travelling cross-country through dangerous territories in order to get to Washington, in order to try and secure an interview with the president. This is like a road trip that really highlights the dangerous roads that they are travelling on these days, and they are attempting to capture it all on camera. Right, what are my thoughts on Civil War? Well, this is A24's attempt, I suppose, to kind of move into a different genre. I've seen some positive reviews of this. I've seen some middling reviews of this, and I've even seen some negative reviews of this. I think this has kind of divided audiences, and probably, I think the intention here was probably to some degree divide audiences, not necessarily in a negative way. I think the idea of this is to kind of, you know, maybe spark conversations and be thought-provoking to what potentially could be in the US's future if, you know, with its really dangerous political state right now. I think from that perspective, I think the film's a success. Because it is definitely thought-provoking. It's got some horrific imagery in the film. There's some quite shocking scenes, you know, of bodies being dumped, and harrowing scenes with, you know, one of the young journalists, Jesse, you know, in a ditch full of bodies, and you know, some of the shocking scenes that they all have to witness on this road trip. And, you know, I get it. You know, they are us, if you like. They are our eyes on this road trip, and, you know, it's trying to be a little bit, I don't know, artistic, but not in your face artistic. You know, it's no mistake, I don't think, that or coincident that the main characters here are all journalists. You know, capturing all this violence and insanity on camera, sort of thing. And it's, you know, I think it's posturing a little bit, this film, but it's also quite impactful. Now, as action films go, if you like, there's very little in the way of action here. I'll be honest with you. There is obviously some action, but it is not what you would class as, like, you know, modern slick action or anything like that. It's going for the brutal and realistic approach, and I suppose it nails that to some degree here. This film's more about, really, you know, the ugly side of humanity, and, you know, how terrible things can go if, you know, poor decisions are made and people aren't listened to, you know, like communities, states and countries, all that kind of stuff. The film is, though, beautifully shot, I have to say. I mean, it's Alex Garland, for goodness sake. The guy doesn't know how to shoot a beautifully looking film, and he does nail it here as well. I think it really is a joy to look at and listen to at times. But I think the film also fails on quite a few levels. I think the pacing's fairly poor. I think the film suffers really quite terribly with some really silly stuff that go on in the film, and it quite criminally, it's got no real memorable characters here. Um, there's lots of, I don't know what the right way, staring, glancing out at sunsets or horizons and stuff, pondering the horrific sights they've just seen. There's quite a few of them sort of scenes. Um, Kirsten Dunst is, obviously a very, very fine actress. We know this, but gives a very, I don't know what the right word is. It feels quite a muted performance here of this weathered journalist who's seen everything, and now she's kind of seeing, her own country being torn to pieces, and it's like she's almost very, I don't know, averaged about it. She doesn't seem that passionate about it at all, really. The only one that really makes any sense is Stephen McKinley Henderson's character, Sammy, who is a veteran journalist that is constantly warning them of the dangers that they are in. And he's the only one that makes any sense. And it seems like every time he makes a prediction, he's absolutely bloody right, but they don't listen to him. And again, it doesn't make sense. If Kirsten Dunst and Wagner Moura's character, Lee and Joel, are such weathered, like, war correspondents stroke press officers, surely to God they would have an inkling of an idea of some of the dangerous situations they were getting themselves into and kind of try their best to avoid it and not kind of go stumbling into it head first just to get the shot. So yeah, there's a level of silliness about the film as well. But it's odd. I mean, it is trying to kind of take a snapshot and hold it up to everybody and say, look, be careful, this could happen if you don't look a little bit more carefully at what you're doing. This is on your horizon. This potentially could take place, and it's fine to do with that, and it's all very A24, I suppose. But I think what they've forgotten here, and certainly what Alex Garland has forgotten here, is, well, number one, he's not American, and number two, I think you've got to kind of make the film entertaining first. Like when A24s make horror films, okay, generally speaking, they're very impactful and at times really very frightening, and there's quite a few examples out there of that. This one fails at its very basic premise of like an action thriller. Yes, there are some moments in this film where you're kind of like, oh my God, how are they going to get out of this? And there's one scene in particular with Jesse Plemons, obviously, that if you've seen the trailer, you'll be aware of what I mean, which is easily one of the most standout scenes in the film. But there are others as well, similar to that, but it's almost like it's rinse and repeat. They're in the car, they're debating the ridiculous situation that the country's in, and they're talking about journalistic integrity and all this stuff as they're travelling. They'll get to a location, there's something bad happening at that location, or there's some people that could easily put them at risk at that location. They've got to kind of work their way through this situation without dying and move on in the car. And then it's the next location, same thing, just, and that's really all it is. And then it just gets bigger and bigger, the issues they've got to deal with right up until where they get to Washington. So it doesn't really shake it up that much in regards to making it interesting. It's kind of rinse and repeat for the most part, this film. But saying that, it probably seems like I've been overly critical of the film. But I do actually feel as there was some good stuff going on here in this film. Very slick at times, and as I've said, beautifully shot. The performances are all of a good standard, even if I do think some of the characters are not particularly memorable. And it's got a very, very strong ending to the film, I suppose. But it just kind of like, the film starts and boom, the Civil War's there. It doesn't give you any backstory to the Civil War. It's just like, this is it. You're in the Civil War. And then it just kind of goes from there. It would have been nice maybe to get a little bit more history on the Civil War sort of thing, what was going on in here. You don't get much of that in the film. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. This film. It's not what I would describe as like film of the year material or anything like that, but it's a film I will probably watch again because it's probably a film that you will pick up more intricacies the more you watch the film. So yeah, check it out, guys, if it sounds interesting to you. And I will of course be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.